6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Sure.
Sure.
Might be like that after my first coffee or something.
You will. You'll be like that in about 10 minutes. No problem. Don't worry about it. So, nice vacation?
Yes.
Good little getaway?
Busy.
Do tell.
We got a lot. We got a lot in. We went to the Grand Ole Opry Friday night.
Fun.
And then we took a 60-mile train trip out to a town called
Oh, that's right.
Waterford, Tennessee, where they had like a town yard sale.
Okay.
And we kind of walked around, didn't really buy much there
Yeah.
because we couldn't really bring it back.
Right, I was going to say, because you had to have a way to get it back.
But it was some fun stuff. They had food trucks and
Fun.
things like that. So it was a nice, relaxing train trip on our second day. And the first day we couldn't get in we got there around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And then we drove around and kind of got our bearings.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
I really suggest anybody going on vacation, the first day, don't plan anything.
Right.
Just get your bearings
Yeah, you
for
got to
the
get the
area.
lay of the land.
And my girlfriend asked for a convertible, which
Yep.
Mustang I didn't quite fit in. But the Dodge Challenger we drove was quite nice. And it
Okay.
had some giddy up. So,
Okay.
yeah, and then I think that was the first day we went out into the about an hour out of town, and then came back on like state roads and stuff like that. And I find I discover more things on state roads. Like my girlfriend wanted a pair of boots, and there's a town called Franklin, was this boot place. I'm like, okay. She got a great pair of boots for under $100, and downtown, if you bought it on Broadway, it's like $200, $300.
Wow.
So it was like, well, you
Yeah.
happy we stopped there? And she goes,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy. So, and then Sunday we did Broadway, which is where all the honky tonks are. Mm-hmm. We started at 9:30 in the morning at whatchamacallit, one of the museums.
Okay.
And they have a little restaurant next door. And then we didn't leave until like 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, my gosh.
Just listening at bands and kind of
fun.
bouncing around to different honky tonks. Ran into the Lurgio clan down there.
Really?
I'm sitting there waiting for my girlfriend. She had to run to the bathroom. So
What?
all of a sudden I hear Pete, and
Oh, my gosh.
it's the Lurgio boys. And I'm like, because they
Oh,
know
my
me from
goodness.
baseball and stuff.
Okay.
Well, apparently the whole family's in town at Mitchell Tenpenny.
Okay.
There's a concert for Mitchell Tenpenny.
Okay.
So they were there for that. And Pete sent me a message on Facebook later going, sorry I missed you. I heard you saw the boys. I'm like, yeah, they're on one of those pedal bars. You see them around town.
Yeah.
They were on the pedal bar, and they saw me sitting there.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't see them.
Okay.
And they came over. And then Whiskey Traveler. Have you seen the band Whiskey Traveler?
I have heard of the band Whiskey Traveler.
So it's kind of a family, and they have a couple extra members, and they're a full band. And so I saw Jessica Dion post that they were on their way to Nashville. It was on Monday. So I posted below it just as kind of half a joke, half serious.
Like where?
Hey, meet up with us for a drink
Yeah.
later if you guys are here. And she sends me a message. She goes, Dad, thought it was a great idea. Where are you? We'll be over there in 20 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. How fun.
So they came over. It was a blues bar
Mm-hmm.
where it was like open mic night, but you bring your instrument and they bring up a full band of different people who really kind of, sometimes they know each other, sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you play a couple blues tunes or rock and roll tunes, and it was just awesome.
I'm in awe
It was fun.
at musicians that can do that.
It was
fun.
fun.
Just start. Oh, that's so
And just
great,
this little
Pete.
small
I'm
bar
so
and-
glad you had such a nice time.
Yeah, we did a lot.
Now,
We really
you
did a
flew
lot.
down there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
How did that all go? Because there was so much going on with. I don't know if you flew Southwest. There was so much
We
going
did.
on with Southwest over the weekend.
Right. So Thursday
But-
we flew down through Chicago, and that was fine.
No problems.
No problems.
Good. Okay. Yeah. The problems seem to be over the weekend. So hopefully
So
you
then
missed those.
so then we became disconnected from reality for a while.
Yeah.
Like, because we just have time. You don't have time to watch TV.
yeah. Who wants to know? You're on vacay.
Right. So, and then Tuesday, our flight was delayed by about 20 minutes because one of our stewards had to come in from another flight.
Okay.
So they were
we had
kind
to
of
wait.
cobbling together crews.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And then when our crew got off at Bradley, there was another crew walking on. So they were shuffling people all
they
over
were-
the place.
Yeah. but you did okay.
Yeah, we only had like
I'm
a 20-minute
so glad
delay.
you had such a great. It sounds like you had a great time.
Yeah, and
Just
for
a
my
lot of
girlfriend,
fun.
we also toured the Opryland Hotel. She wanted to see all
Yeah.
the gardens and stuff because it was
Sure.
something her mom did.
Okay.
So, she kind of tracing her mom's footsteps and a little bit. And Opry was fun on Friday night.
Great.
It was Friday, and
Yeah.
I saw the Dion's had gotten tickets for the Tuesday night Opry. So they do Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay. Okay.
So, but it was a fun show.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Yeah, we had a good time. I would suggest it for anybody that is
Yeah.
interested in music or country music because there's,
And you were gone a total of what, 5 days, Pete?
5 days. Yeah, Thursday
And
to Tuesday.
do you feel like that was like doable? I'm always hesitant to go to places where it's like I have like 4 days and you really need 7, but there are other places.
You could do it in
where
4 or 5.
Okay, so that's comfortable. You feel like you've seen a little bit, and
Yeah, I mean, there's still some things you like
sure,
to do. Like,
of course, yeah.
I'm not. See, I'm a curious guy, so I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily a museum guy.
Yeah,
So we didn't really do the country. I mean, if we had another day or two,
Mm-hmm.
we probably would have done the Country Music Hall of Fame or something like that.
okay.
But that could be another trip. You
Yeah,
never know.
absolutely. Oh, well, that sounds great. Well, awesome.
Yeah, had a good time.
Well, we have an absolutely, well, first of all, I had to wear my Red Sox attire today. So one of my staff members, Joanne Ortega, is my outreach coordinator, was at the game on Monday night. Her son had
Which
gotten,
we saw.
yeah, unbelievable. So her son
So-
had gotten tickets last week, and Joanne was just praying that they were going to make it to Monday night so that she would see a game. Well,
Right,
of
yep.
course, the rest is history. We all know what happened.
Well, so we saw that game. We were trying to find a restaurant. That was the day we were at all the honky tonks.
Okay.
I was trying to in search of hot chicken, which I never got, but whatever. So we finally gave up on trying to find the restaurants. It was packed on Columbus Day. It was crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
So there's this little restaurant close to where our condo was called Third and Home, and it oversits their minor league ballpark.
Okay.
It's a separate building, but it looks
Okay.
over the ballpark.
Yeah.
So they have big screens. It's a huge sports bar. So we were watching it in a sports bar
fun.
with like 10 people in there.
Oh my gosh.
Probably can fit hundreds.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's got on my Facebook. There's a beautiful views of downtown Nashville
Oh, how great.
and overlooking the ballpark. And I'm like, well, if there's a game going on here, it would have been like the ultimate home
The
run,
place,
right?
yeah,
But
absolutely.
but we were sitting down to dinner, and it was in like the 7th or 8th inning, and they were tied. And I was like,
Yep.
honey, we can't leave until this game's over. She started laughing.
Exactly.
So
Order
we're watching-
another drink. We're staying.
Yeah, so we're watching Monday Night Football and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And then we
yeah.
watched the beginning of the Chicago game as well. So
Yeah. So,
Oh, yeah.
good times, good times. So the staff, yes. So Joanne was at the game on Monday night, had taken yesterday off, because probably
she's
didn't
smarter
get
than
home-
I am.
Yeah, probably didn't get home until whenever. And
tickets,
yep. And so yesterday, the staff, we were just so excited for her. It's been such a long year for everyone, and Joanne is our outreach coordinator, so she has been dealing with some of our toughest cases. And I was so glad she had this little break. And so we, as a staff, said, well, let's all, we'll all wear our Red Sox stuff. So Joanne will be back to work today. Also, today is Brown Bag Food Distribution Day. So for those of you that receive brown bags at the Senior Center today between 9 and 10. A huge shout out. Of course, we broadcast here from the studio at Westfield Technical Academy. Thank you to the Allied Health students who have jumped in. I believe they're the first year students who have jumped in with their supervisor and have been helping us with brown bags. So yesterday they were at the Senior Center in the afternoon assembling all the bags for us. They
Nice.
they did it last month. They did it yesterday, and now they are determined to try to break their own speed record. And it
Nice.
is so much faster than we've ever been able to do it on our own. So, and they will be here this morning helping us out. So this is a 2-day project now, the Brown Bag Food Distribution Program. But thanks to the Allied Health students, we are partnering with them on some other programs. So what a nice connection. We're doing a lot with Westfield Technical Academy this
I
year.
think you've
with,
always known it's a 2-day project. You just only had one day.
Yeah, exactly. And we, again, we'll never go back to that. We keep thinking to ourselves, how the heck did we ever do this? I can tell you that in the past, pre-COVID, when we used to have brown bag days, by like 2:00 in the afternoon, the staff was
Wiped,
absolutely spent. You were just wiped. I mean, it was running
Sure,
all
yeah.
over, and it was insane. So anyway, all right. Today we have a lot to do. We have 3 candidates coming in for interviews this morning, starting at 6:35. So we got a lot to pack in this morning. So Counselor Bill Oniski will be our first counselor, and then Ralph Figge, and then Mary Beth Berrien, who's running against Nick Morganelli for the Ward 1 seat. So we've got
I think that rounds out our
lots
candidate
of going.
interviews.
Yes, I think this is it for this morning.
I think it's it for it.
I think it's it for it. Right, exactly. I think Kenny's done with his. And if you did not hear a candidate, it's because they did not accept the invitation, not because they were not invited. And I just want to get that out there, Pete,
Exactly,
that
yes.
all of the candidates were invited to
We made
to
an
come and
attempt
spend
for
some
everybody.
time. That's right. And so, some for whatever reason, time constraints or whatever. But just so you know, I don't want the public to think we're leaving anybody out. We weren't.
Correct.
Everybody got the email inviting them.
Kenny got the candidate list from the city clerk along with
Yep.
the emails and fired out an email. So
Yep, and did that in long ago. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
like
it was a
it
while
wasn't a
ago.
last minute thing. We had
Right.
given them plenty of time. So,
Yep.
All right, today is October 13th. It is National Emergency Nurses Day. It's observed annually on the second Wednesday in October, and we take this day to say thank you to the emergency room nurses for their hard work, dedication, service, and commitment to their patients and families, as well as their loyalty to the emergency nursing profession. Emergency room nurses are the first people that we see when we have an accident or a medical emergency. They put us at ease and work to eliminate pain and discomfort. And this is a day to let them know just how important they are in keeping hospitals running smoothly. Sponsored by the Emergency Nurses Association since 1989, this day is part of Emergency Nurses Week. And, we had Ron Bryan. I was actually watching Ron's interview that Harry Rock did on the Council on Aging Presents series, and that interview is being aired on Channel 15 on Tuesdays at 2:45. And Ron is president and CEO of Bay State Noble Hospital and Franklin Hospital as well, part of the Bay State system. And I thought he did a really nice job of giving an update. And, he was talking about the emergency room and 30,000 cases going through our little Bay State Noble Community Hospital room
Yep.
a year, emergency room a year. That is a boatload of cases. So we do honor the nurses, and I think there are some emergency room renovations in the plans for Bay State Noble Hospital. I know that's been in the works for a while. So
you know the hardest part of that show was
what?
getting the background image.
Oh, the background image was sensational.
You couldn't find one online. I had to go take one myself.
What?
I went
oh
up
my
there and
gosh.
took one myself.
That was absolutely sensational, Pete. That was just great. So listen, you know what? I'm at a good stopping point before I do my first famous birthday. We only have a few today because we have a lot to cram in before Counselor Oniski gets here. So it is 6:14. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of National Emergency Nurses Day, we're going to listen to Kool and the Gang singing Emergency. We'll be back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us the third Wednesday of every month with Selectman Joe Didi and his take on everything Southwick.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:19. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So we have so much going on today, so I just wanted to do a few famous birthdays. So I did a little smattering. There were actually a lot of people born on this day, but I thought I'd do an entertainer, a political, and a sports figure. So these are my top 3 for the day. So today is the birthday of singer-songwriter Paul Simon. He was born on this day in 1941 in Newark, New Jersey. Paul Simon is 80 years old today. I cannot believe that. But there is a great story here, which is why I wanted to do Paul Simon. So after moving to Queens, New York as a child, Simon befriended Art Garfunkel, the most famous singer in the neighborhood. Simon credits Garfunkel's performance in the 4th grade talent show as his inspiration to start singing, especially after he heard a girl tell Garfunkel how good he was. At Forest Hills High School, Simon and Garfunkel formed a duo. They would occasionally perform at school dances, but spent their free time in New York City, pitching Simon as a songwriter and the duo as demo singers. In 1957, they pooled together their money to cut a single called Hey Schoolgirl, that was the name of the song, and had their first hit at the age of 15. This landed them a spot on American Bandstand, going on right after Jerry Lee Lewis. I love stories like this. Like, this is so cool.
Sure.
And at the time, their name was Tom and Jerry because they felt that they were both Jewish, of Jewish descent, and they felt that Simon and Garfunkel was too Jewish sounding for a group. So initially, when they cut that single, Hey Schoolgirl, it's under Tom and Jerry. They eventually changed the name, and Simon and Garfunkel released their album Sounds of Silence in 1966. It was a commercial success, with 3 of the songs making it into the top 10. They contributed to the soundtrack for The Graduate, starring new unknown actor named Dustin Hoffman. Who knew? The soundtrack was a smash hit, marking Simon and Garfunkel's ascendancy to become one of the most popular and influential acts of the era. But even as they reached new musical heights, their partnership was starting to weaken. Simon and Garfunkel released their last album of new material, Bridge Over Troubled Water, in 1970. Their careers diverged, and after many years together, they were both ready to move on. They broke up in 1970 after the album won 6 Grammy Awards. As a solo artist, Paul Simon's hits included Mother and Child Reunion, named after a dish at a Chinese restaurant, by the way. Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard. He still doesn't know exactly what he and Julio were doing down by the schoolyard, but the song became a hit. Kodachrome and Graceland. To date, Paul Simon has won 13 regular Grammys, plus a Lifetime Achievement Award and a Grammy Hall of Fame Award. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001, and in 2007 became the first ever recipient of the Library of Congress's Gershwin Prize for Popular Song. So happy 80th birthday to singer-songwriter Paul Simon. So that's my entertainment birthday. Okay, this is my political birthday. It is the birthday of the late Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Britain. She was born on this day in 1925 in Grantham, England, and died at the age of 87 back in 2013 after a series of small strokes. 2 years after graduating from college, Margaret Thatcher made her first bid for public office. She ran as the conservative candidate for a Dartford parliamentary seat in the 1950 elections. She knew from the start that it would be nearly impossible to win the position away from the Liberal Labour Party. Still, she earned the respect of her political party peers with her speeches. Defeated, Thatcher remained undaunted, trying again the following year, but once more her efforts were unsuccessful. Margaret Thatcher won a seat in the House of Commons in 1959, representing Finchley. Clearly a woman on the rise, Thatcher was appointed Parliamentary Undersecretary for Pensions and National Insurance in 1961. When Conservatives returned to office in June of 1970, Thatcher was appointed Secretary of State for Education and Science and dubbed Thatcher Milk Snatcher after her abolition of the universal free school milk program. While the Conservative Party lost power in 1974, Thatcher became a dominant force in her political party. In 1975, England was in a time of economic and political turmoil, with the government nearly bankrupt, unemployment on the rise, and conflicts with labor unions. This instability helped return Conservatives to power in 1979. As party leader, Thatcher made history in May of 1979 when she was appointed Britain's first female prime minister. As prime minister, Thatcher battled the country's recession by initially raising interest rates to control inflation. She was best known for her destruction of Britain's traditional industries through her attacks on labor organizations such as the Miners' Union, and for the massive privatization of social housing and public transport. One of her staunchest allies was U.S. President Ronald Reagan, a fellow conservative. The two shared similar right-wing, pro-corporate political philosophies. So happy birthday to the late Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Britain. And lastly, my last famous birthday today in the world of sports, one of my favorite NFL players, Jerry Rice, NFL football player born on this day in 1962 in Starkville, Mississippi. Jerry Rice is 59 years old today and anxiously awaiting, Pete, the day next year when he'll turn 60 and able to join the Westfield Senior Center.
Oh, boy.
There it is. Jerry Rice is widely considered to be the greatest wide receiver in the history of the National Football League. Early on, Rice proved himself to be a gifted runner, often cutting back and forth on the long dirt road that ran in front of his house. But it wasn't until high school that Rice discovered football. As the story goes, Rice had skipped classes one day and ran into an assistant principal. After sprinting away from him, Rice was eventually reprimanded. But his quickness was soon brought to the attention of the school's football coach, who put him in pads and had him line up as a receiver. While in college at Mississippi Valley State University, Jerry Rice earned All-America honors and set 18 Division I AA records. Then the San Francisco 49ers drafted Rice in the first round in 1985, the start of a 20-year career in which Jerry Rice won multiple Super Bowls and set 38 NFL records. His second year was his breakout season. Teamed with veteran quarterback Joe Montana, Rice snagged 86 catches, including 15 touchdowns and 1,570 receiving yards. Without a doubt, the most prolific receiver in the NFL history, Jerry Rice retired with 38 NFL records to his name, including most career receptions, that would be 1,549, most receiving yards, that would be 22,895, and most touchdowns, and that would be 197. Rice was named a member of the NFL's all-decade teams of the 1980s and 90s, as well as the league's 75th anniversary team. In 2010, Jerry Rice won three Super Bowl rings with the 49ers, was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So happy 59th birthday to Jerry Rice. All right, that's all of that. I have two more minutes to do some announcements, and my very first important announcement is to let you know that we have started the Senior Citizen Property Tax Work-Off Program up again this year. It was on hiatus last year, And during that hiatus, we changed the program a bit. There was a front page article on Westfield's yesterday's Westfield News. Thank you to Lori Sapalik for doing that article for us. I believe that was Lori's last article that she'll be writing about the senior center. Lori will be officially retiring, and I believe it's as of this Friday. And I just want to shout out to Lori Sapalik, who has written many, many, many articles about the Council on Aging and our services and our programs. She's just done a fabulous job, and we will miss her dearly. The Senior Citizen Property Tax Work-Off Program is a program whereby older adults can give back to the city and do some volunteer work for the city of Westfield in exchange for a reduction of their property taxes. That reduction has increased from $500 to $800, so that's some really nice incentive. We did that last year while we were on hiatus, so thanks to the City Council for allowing us to do that. There are some guidelines. Obviously, you have to be 60 or older. The income guidelines, it's $52,260 for a couple, $38,640 for a single individual, and that must include your pensions, your Social Security, so any income that you get, and we would check last year's tax return for that. And so if you are interested, the program we are accepting applications now. If you would like an application, I will mail out the application packet to you. Just give me a call at the Senior Center at 562-6435. The deadline to get the applications back is a week from Friday, and you can't just drop them off. You have to make an appointment to come in and see me, and I'll do a brief interview with you. All of the volunteers this year are being placed in the Westfield Public Schools or at the Westfield Animal Shelter. So those are your two choices. We do try to place you in whatever school you choose to be in. So a lot of people prefer to volunteer in a school that's closest to where they live. Some of them prefer the younger students versus the older. There are a variety of jobs. You might get placed in a classroom as greeter, helping in the library, helping with, we call them reading tutors, but it's really mostly just for the little ones, listening to them practice reading out loud. They just need a body there and somebody who can, listen to them read as they practice. So all of that for this year's tax work-off program. So again, the deadline is next Friday to get those applications back. So if you're interested, give me a call at the Senior Center, 562-6435. It is 6:31. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. I see that Councillor Oniski is in the house. He will be my first candidate up this morning. So while we get him settled, we're going to listen to Paul Simon because it is his 80th birthday, singing Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard. We'll be right back.
Mama Pajama rolled out of bed and she ran to the police station. When the papa found out, he began to shout and he started the investigation. It's against the law. It was against the law. Or what the mama saw. It was against the law. The mama looked down and spit on the ground every time my name gets mentioned. Papa said, oh, if I get that boy, I'm gonna stick him in the house of detention. Well, I'm on my way. I don't know where I'm going. I'm on my way. I'm taking my time, but I don't know where. Goodbye to Rose, the queen of Corona. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Come and take me away, but the press let the story leak. Now when the radical preach come to get me released, we is all on the cover of Newsweek, and I'm on my way. I don't know where I'm going, I'm on my way. I'm taking my time, but I don't know where. Goodbye to Rosie, the queen of Corona. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with City Councilor, Ward 6 City Councilor Bill Oniski. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Bill's waking up here. You know, Pete and I have been up for like forever. So this year we are doing interviews with the candidates, and most of the candidates are running unopposed, yourself included. So first of all, Bill, I want to say thank you for coming in, because clearly you don't have to worry about being reelected. But Pete and Ken Stomsky and I felt that it was really important for the voters to have an opportunity to hear from the people who represent them. And this was actually kind of fun, because in the past, when people are running against people, Ken and I always had the exact same questions, so that there was no favoritism. We were asking everyone the same thing. But in this case, we could, freewheel it a little bit, which has been fun. So I have my question. Of course, it was more work on my part, because it was like, okay, 3 different candidates, 3 different sets of questions. But I'm going to, the one question that I am asking all of the candidates that have come on the show, my opening question is, let's assume, because we do have people who have moved to Westfield since the last election, so let's assume that they don't know who Bill Oniski is. So I would like you to start by introducing yourself and just provide a little bit of background about your education and your professional experience.
Sure, it's not going to be that exciting, but I'll do my best, certainly.
Oh, come on,
My name is Bill Oniski, Ward 6 City Councilor. I was actually born in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
Grew up in East Haven until I was about 12 years old. And then our family moved to Southwick.
Okay.
So I graduated Southwick High School and then went on to graduate from Westfield State College. Mm-hmm. After college, I moved to Westfield over on Northwest Road and married, 3 children, grown children. They're 26, 24, and 24.
Oh, wow. Oh, twins?
Yes.
Females, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I
3
do
daughters.
remember that. That's right. I remember.
I love them all to death. They're great.
3 girls. Must have been fun in the bathroom in your house, with everybody trying to get ready at the same time.
Yeah, there was some shouting matches, but, we pretty much divvied up our time. And actually, that would get me to work early in the mornings. I would go into my usual job, let's say, at supposed to be there for 8, but I'd get there early just to avoid everyone getting
You
up
are not
and-
the first father that I've heard that who had daughters who said the same thing. It's like I would get in and out of the house before the drama started.
That's exactly what I did, and I still do it to this day.
There it is.
I still, still get up earlier than I need to. But so I moved to Westfield, Northwest Road, and then moved actually to my current address on Hillcrest Circle. During that time when my kids were younger, I ended up going for my MBA at UMass. So that's my educational background.
Yeah, that's a lot to do when you have children. Trying to go back for a master's is
Yeah, I mean,
challenging.
It was, but it's not as bad as you might think. At the time, they had live classes.
Remember those days, Bill, when like people were actually in a classroom together?
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I did too.
I mean, I really did. I was, I was one of the older people in the classes at the time, in my 40s. And then, a lot of students right out of college would go right into their MBA. And at the time, UMass was actually holding classes at Bay State.
Okay.
They had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had probably four classrooms there that
Nice.
they used for seminars for the hospital during the day, and then they rented it out to UMass, and then Holyoke Community they moved to. So
Nice.
I did a mix of hybrid.
Yeah.
Hybrid learning. Some was online, some was in class, but I definitely enjoyed the
and
class more.
it's interesting, I think, when you go back to grad school and you are considered sort of a non-traditional student, although now I think that term probably isn't even used because everybody's non-traditional, but you definitely have, when you've been out in the work world, it's definitely different than a student who's gone right from undergraduate into a graduate program. And because I did the same thing. I worked for a while before I went back. And when I went back for my master's degree, you just feel like I'm here. I know what I need to learn. And, you're really soaking it all in. So, but it is a lot with children and a full-time job. So what is your job now? What are you doing now?
I work at Comark Communications in Southwick. It's actually owned by Hitachi. Our full name is Hitachi Kokusai Electric Comark.
Okay.
But where I work, we manufacture, design, and install television transmitters.
Okay.
So we're the equipment that we have is at the bottom of TV towers, essentially.
Okay.
It's a little hard to describe, but where you see like the Channel 22 tower,
Yeah.
down below there's a building, and we have the equipment in the building that transmits a signal, goes up essentially like a coax cable, except it's
Heliax.
Well,
I know the equipment very well.
Yeah, well, we've got. I'm looking for you. Like,
Oh, he's way back there. You
Just
can't
the voice in your
I
ear.
can see him. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, well, a lot of it's Heliax for the lower power, but this is mainly the hard copper
Okay.
coax. Anyway, we make the equipment that goes in there.
Okay.
And we sell it all across the country, all across the world. So we've got a lot of TV stations, and I'm in charge of our customer service group there, and project management and logistics.
Perfect. All right, let's get into a little bit about what you do in your other job as city councilor. So now we know what you do professionally, and that you've been in this area for a long time. So because you are the Ward 6 councilor, not an at-large councilor, I'm going to start with, in your opinion, Bill, what are some of the pressing issues that are unique to Ward 6? As opposed to some of the other wards. We heard Bridget was here last week. Bridget Matthews-Kane talked a little bit about what was unique to Ward 3. What's unique to Ward 6?
Well,
And by the way, where is Ward 6? Just kind of some outlying parameters, just so our listeners have a mental picture.
Sure. Generally, it's from Union Street north,
Okay.
bordered by Route 20
Okay.
and 10 and 202. There's a cutout where it's Ralph Figge's ward on Mosley Avenue. So one side of the street is
Yep.
Counselor Figge, one side is Ward 6.
Okay.
So that's a little cutout there, I guess. I mean, every ward is unique in its own way.
Sure.
Of course, and Ward 6 actually, has a juvenile detention center.
I didn't realize that was in Ward 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
right by the track. So
Yeah.
easy exit if you need to. I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. Well, that is a little unique.
So we've got that
Mm-hmm.
right next to it, a hospital,
Yep. Western Mass Hospital.
Western Mass Hospital,
Yep.
which is huge, by the way. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at it from the front, you say, okay, that's a good sized building, but you drive around back, it's a lot.
Yeah, and Bill, I'm glad you really brought up Western Mass Hospital because, of course, whenever we talk about a hospital in Westfield, we automatically think Bay State Noble Hospital. And Western Mass Hospital sometimes is kind of the forgotten hospital out there. So, again, I actually did not realize that was Ward 6. Okay.
Yep. And, we've got a morgue.
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't know that. So where is that for those listeners who don't know?
Sure, that's right on East Mountain Road also, right?
Across the street, right?
Across the street from Western Mass Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an airport.
Yep.
We've got Hampton Ponds.
Yeah.
State park.
Yep.
Of course, and the airport I mentioned. So we've got industrial areas. We've got residential areas. So there's quite a bit there. So there's quite a lot of different synergies happening.
Okay.
So one of the problems there, or the resident complaints, is some of the trucking. You hear that quite a bit.
Yep.
So that's one of the problems there. You try to resolve things as best you can, and I think I'm doing a good job at it. I hope I am at least. So the thing with city council is you learn that there's two sides, and sometimes both are right.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear valid points from two sides all the time, and a city councilor needs to make a vote and make a decision based on what they feel is best, knowing that there are two people that are right, and you try to get somewhere in the middle. But, they say a good decision is one that makes both sides unhappy.
Yeah.
You made the right one.
Yeah, absolutely. So are there certain things like, as you pointed out, you've got some industrial over there. Obviously, you've got residential. You've got the airport. You've got all kinds of, are there certain things that have come up in the last couple of years that you really had to sort of advocate one way or the other, just in terms of the Ward 6 residents?
Well, the airport's been a big deal there with the buyouts of homes and
what's happening? I hadn't even heard anything. That was a big deal a few years ago, and then it all kind of quieted down. So what's happening?
Sure. Well, right now, there's a company that's hired to oversee this, and they're in the process of redrawing a map. So every 5 years, they have to redraw a sound map.
Okay. Yep.
And depending on where the map falls, will dictate which houses qualify for sound insulation, buyout, and a lot of that also has to deal with what the government grants are, what the federal government grants are, because the federal government pays 90%, state government 5%, and City of Westfield 5% for all this.
Okay.
So a lot of it's dictated by the funding from the U.S. government. So if there's no funding, you're not going to hear anything. If there's and in this case, they're redoing the map, so everything's kind of calm now.
Kind of quiet. So when if they end up doing a buyout, do they just tear the house down? Is that generally what happens with a buyout?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. It's a buyout, and then the city owns a property. So, I mean, I advocate for trying to keep the houses up, the taxpayer rolls up, and make the sound insulation if you need to. Some people love having no house next to them. I mean, if you drive down Holyoke Road, initially you would see spaces, but now it looks natural. There'd be a house, lot, another house. So it looks natural now. But and a lot of people like having that little bit of open space.
Buffer.
Other people don't. It's weird. It's crazy. So, two different opinions. Same thing happening, an open lot next door to you. Some people love it, some people don't like it.
So, and I think that's a good example, as you were saying before, of, just looking at things differently. So since you brought up the airport, one of the questions that I had is you are liaison to the airport, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So just so that our listeners, and I think a lot of our viewers and listeners may not realize that most of the city councilors, if not all of them, I'm not sure, are liaison to certain departments. And so that just gives the department head sort of an avenue to the city council, just through a single person, which I find really helpful. So you are the liaison to Barnes Airport. So talk about your role as liaison.
Sure. what I try to do is learn as much as I can about it, really get into the details of it. So I'll attend their meetings, and there's going to be one Thursday, I believe. So I'll attend their meetings, and they're very, very kind there. They'll send me packages of all the information that the airport commissioners see, and I'll be able to look at it, review it before the meeting, and then discuss it at the meeting. So it's also very interesting. I mean, they use acronyms like you'll never believe.
Yes, I would. We all do. That's we all do. Every department does, and it's a matter of kind of learning them. And
I mean, taxiway Sierra, taxiway Bravo. You know where that is, Bill? I said no.
Tell me define what we're talking about here.
I don't, but I mean, there's a department. It's a city department. It's a city-owned airport, municipal airport. But most of their funding comes from the federal government. So they've had a lot of grants this year. There's a lot of work going on there. New taxiways. They're trying to build out some new hangars. So that's really an attraction, for certain aviation businesses. Chris Willingborg, the airport manager, should be coming back, I believe, today from a convention that focuses on airport businesses to try to draw some more business into the airport.
And Bill, I have two questions. One is how many airport commissioners are there? Do you know?
There's 3.
There are 3 of them. And are there things that are happening or things that have happened over the last couple of years, this last term with you, that were controversial about the airport, or is everything pretty copacetic?
I would say it's all pretty good. I mean, what was odd is, the F-15s, when they take off, they make noise. And a lot of people were home during COVID.
Right.
So
didn't think of that.
No, nobody ever does. I didn't either. So I'd be getting calls. Well, these planes are taking off all the time, and I'm trying to have a Zoom meeting, and a plane's taking off, and I can't hear. So I would visit, the resident and explain, what was going on, and that's one of those things you just would not expect.
They're
not home during the day,
right?
So they never hear it.
It's like basically what you're saying is, well, this is the way it's been for the last however many years. You just weren't around. The kids were in school; they didn't know it. You were at work; you didn't know it. Yeah. Didn't think about that.
No, it's one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's funny is that now that you bring that up is that we are, because we've been doing curbside lunches now for a year and a half. I too did not realize how often those jets go flying by, but when we're outside, for us, it never gets old. And for the seniors in line, we love it when they fly by and of course, you can't hear a blessed thing. I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody while we're doing meals and they're flying by, but we're all waving and everything. But, until I was outside every day for that 45-minute or hour time slot, I didn't realize how often they went over either, because when I'm inside and, my computer, I'm running around the senior center, they're flying over. I didn't really notice, but when you're outside. So, yeah, I can see it when you're in the middle of a Zoom meeting and this thing's, shaking the windows.
Well, one resident that I know, he moved closer to the airport so he could see the planes.
Yeah.
So he wants the noise. Again, there's your two opposites. People want out. Some people want out. Some people want in.
I'm telling you, my husband volunteered for us for many months when COVID first started, helping with the meal stuff. And Gary was like a little kid. He would be the one, like, let's buy a house right next to the airport so I could watch this and listen to it every day. I don't think it would ever get old for him. All right. So another role that you have, in addition to being the airport liaison, is you are also the chair of Legislative and Ordinance Committee. I think a lot of people don't know what, and there's an acronym, we say L&O, but tell us what the Legislative and Ordinance Committee does. Talk about your role as chair and sort of maybe some of the things that have come up in the last 2 years that were exciting or controversial or not.
Sure. Well, I mean, we've got a great L&O committee with Councilor Mike Burns and Councilor Jim Adams, who are really part of making it what I think is very successful. What we do there is take any ordinance that's going through, any legal type of issue that needs a vote, goes to our L&O committee, and I work with City Attorney Shanna Reed and bring in any department heads
Yep.
that are needed to explain what's going on. So, I mean, the process at City Council, if you're watching it on TV, especially for the first year even, I mean, it's confusing. So what happens is the mayor will propose an item, and then that item will go to L&O if it's a legislative and ordinance item, finance if it's finance. So it'll get divvied up into the subcommittee. So the L&O subcommittee, like I said, takes the legislative and ordinance type items, and then we start discussing it in great detail. So we'll bring in department heads, we'll ask questions, and we try to get the answers that we think other city councilors will want in front of full city council. So you're trying to always
Think ahead.
you might know it, but you need to hear it from the department head. So as far as anything controversial, I mean, there's been marijuana places.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, sure.
all over the place. There really hasn't been too much that I can recall that's controversial, thankfully.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's what you want. And again, just so our viewers understand the process, so if something goes to council that gets, and I'm going to use the Senior Citizen Tax Work-Off Program as an example because I was we were talking about that before you were on. And I said there were some changes that were done to the program while we were on hiatus last year because we didn't place any of the volunteers. And those changes were that we upped the amount of a tax credit that someone could get from $500 to $800. And in doing so, we lowered the number of total participants from 40 down to 25, but that and allowed us to, for those that are working, to make more, to earn more tax money credit. So that process, because the Senior Citizen Property Tax Work-Off Program is a city ordinance, and it was written in a certain way back 10 years ago, so I had to send that to I think it was my liaisons. It was actually Councilor Figge and Councilor Adams that brought that to the council. So again, just so people understand the process. So the full city council isn't going to discuss it and look at it initially. It's going to go to a subcommittee. In this case, because we wanted to change, you have to change the ordinance, it had to go to the Legislative and Ordinance Committee. And so, as you said, Bill, then your committee took that, called me in, asked me, why are we doing this? What are the statistics? How is the program? How do you think this is going to benefit the program or the senior citizens, whatever? And then your committee makes a recommendation or not. I mean, you could, as a committee, you can vote it yes or no. If you vote it in either case, it's going back to the full council.
Yeah, it's just a recommendation.
It's just a recommendation. So your committee could have said, no, for a bunch of reasons. It's a 2-to-1 vote. We're not really recommending this. It goes back to the council, and as you said, so that you're reporting to the council on these are the questions we asked, these are the answers that we're given, and then the full council will take a vote. So sometimes you kind of know how things are going to go. Boy, sometimes you really don't know how things are going to go, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, for instance, it was $500, or the work went from
it went from 500 to 800.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So in those cases, that's got a little bit of finance component in it.
Yep.
So typically what will happen is Councilor Figge is the chair of finance. So before the meeting, him and I will just quickly discuss, well, should we send this to finance or should we send it to legislative?
But in this case, because the total amount that the city budgets for the program wasn't changing at all, because in upping it to 800, we were decreasing the number of participants in order to keep the total. So there was really no budget change, and I think that's why and of course, Councilor Figge is my liaison, so he was really familiar with all of that. So I think that's why it went to L&O and not finance, because they're if we had been asking for more money, that would have been a different story.
Yeah, Councilor Figge and I we'll talk about each of those as they come along.
Yeah,
and it works out really well. He'll take some into his finance committee.
Yep. And you'll take
some.
some.
I'll take some into L&O.
And Bill, just because we only have a couple of minutes left, believe it or not, the time flies. What do you see as some of the challenges for the council in the upcoming, election term that you would serve? So FY22, FY23, anything that stands out in your mind as, we're going to have to tackle this one?
Well, yeah, there's the data center, of course, that's been the hot item.
Yep.
There's usually one or two of those a year. So that's coming in. I'm not going to talk in great detail on that,
Nope.
but it's a big project, and that's going to take up some time.
Yep.
And a lot of public input, which is which is great.
Yep.
Another company, I believe it's called James Hardy, is also in right now for a TIF, a tax incentive program, which will be a big company also off of I think it's Turnpike Industrial Road by the gas and electric. So that'll be another big deal. So there are people who want to come into Westfield. You hear so many negative things sometimes. However, you don't hear the positive aspects. People don't start praising, Westfield that it's good. Typically, only the negative things are brought up.
Yeah.
But when I'm walking around or with neighbors and friends, they love Westfield. They think everything is going very, very well. But it's, the silent majority, I guess you'd say.
And you know what? That is a great note to end it on, because I think that you're right. I think there are, and periodically we'll hear some really nice things from people. My advice to them is generally pick up the phone and call the mayor. Let them know. I mean, call your ward counselor and say, this has been terrific, or this worked really well for me. This worked well for my family, because we do like to know that there are people. But I agree with you, Bill. I think that's sometimes the silent majority. So Bill Oniski, Ward 6 City Councilor, running again this year. Everyone get out and vote. November 2nd is the election.
Yes.
So get out and vote. Bill, good luck.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:03. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio right now with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. I understand Ward 2 City Councilor Ralph Figge, who's my next candidate up, is on his way. So in the meantime...
So you got to fill for a couple of minutes.
Which, Pete, is that hard for me?
Yeah, no, that's no big deal.
Okay.
That's no big deal.
First of all, this is a reminder that this week is the last week for Westfield Farmers Market for this season. So that will be Thursday from noon to 5. They'll be having entertainment. They've got crafts down there. They've got all kinds of farms with some of our fall fruits and veggies.
May have to stop in there and get some veggies before the season's over.
Yeah, I got this whole list of, all kinds of stuff that's going to be available and all kinds of farms that'll be represented, and our musicians, courtesy of the Cultural Council. So thank you to that. So that's this Thursday, the last of the farmers market. And I know that Debbie or Mary, who's running the market this year, the market manager, wants to thank all of the volunteers who have been helping out with that. So stop by the farmers market. That's over on Court Street, right at the Church of the Atonement. So park in the back parking lot, and join them. I also want to remind folks that the Kiwanis Club is again doing their Park of Honor. So you can purchase a flag for a veteran. And there's a form. We have the forms at the Senior Center. And on the form, you fill out the honoree's name, the veteran that you want to honor, branch of service, their dates, rank, where they served, and then your name as a sponsor, and some other information. So each flag is $30 if you purchase an individual flag, but if you get 4 of them, it's $100. So that becomes $25 a piece. The flags are displayed over at what used to be South Middle School, the school right next to the post office and across from Veterans Park, on the lawn, and they're up pretty much for the month of November. It's really a beautiful display, and you can actually go in, park your car, get out, and find the flag with your honor. All the flags are tagged, and it will have the veteran's name, and then the information that you provide. It's really, I started doing it a few years ago when I found out about it. I did one for my father when I went over there. My dad served in World War II, and then my husband saw it, and his dad was younger than my father. His father served, he was in the Navy, and he served in the Korean War. So the next year we got one for Gary's dad. And last year I added my first cousin, John Wilkowski, who served in Vietnam, passed away last year. And I sent a photo of the flag, me with his flag and his tag, to my cousin, his sister, who was just so touched by the whole thing. And this year we are adding my daughter's boyfriend, Isaac, who served in the Army National Guard for 10 years and was stationed in Afghanistan. So
did they open that up for first responders as well?
I don't know, Pete. I don't know that.
I think they did last year.
Yes, yes, it says we invite you to sponsor a flag in honor of a veteran, law enforcement officer, firefighter, or first responder.
Right.
So there you go. And we have the forms at the Senior Center. We've got them at the front, at the greeter's desk, and Julie Barnes has them over in Veterans. So if you'd like to do that, you have to get your information and your money to them by October 29th. That's the deadline. So you know what? West Springfield does it, and their green is just filled with flags. So
Here comes Coach Figge.
The more that we can do, the better. So let's sponsor that. So there you go. Pete was concerned that I had to fill a few minutes, Ralph. And, I said,
Pete should never be concerned
a few minutes. I mean, I can fill a few hours. All right. We have Ward 2, City Councilor Ralph Figge as my next candidate that I'm interviewing. You can put those headphones on there.
They're loud.
Oh, they are? Okay, hold on. I'll turn them down. Okay, how's that? Little sound check. Is that better? Or do you want it turned down a little bit?
A little bit more.
How's that? Better?
perfect.
Okay, that's perfect.
Just like you, Tina.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Flattery will get you everywhere, Ralph.
Well, when you're late, you got to do something.
Okay, there it is. But you know what? We're just going to take a breath. And so, I had Councilor Oniski in, Ward 6 City Councilor Bill Oniski in, and last week I had Rick Sullivan and I had Bridget Matthews-Kane. I understand you and Councilor Matthews-Kane have a little thing going with this tree thing.
We do.
Right? Your little contest. We'll talk about that later.
Perfect.
So because most of the city councilors are running unopposed, Ralph, I am asking all of you the first initial question. Then your questions are all a little bit different based on what you're doing. But, just for those people who are new to Westfield, we have people who have just moved here since the last election. They don't really know who all these candidates are. Introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about your educational and professional background.
Okay. My name is Ralph Figge, and I am retired from 25 years as a school counselor at Agawam High School. I have had many different jobs through the course of my work, and I continue to still be employed. Cutting back, though, recently we've had the addition of a granddaughter.
Oh, boy.
So that changes
Congratulations.
priorities a little bit.
It does.
It does.
It's funny how that happens, Ralph.
It is.
Suddenly all those
boom.
important work jobs are like, not so much.
Well, I'm not mentoring at the vocational
Okay.
school anymore, so
Yep.
I cut that back. So basically, I'm doing the Jimmy Adams fill-in whenever he needs any help at the funeral home and the city council work. So that's basically what I'm down to. So that's good.
Okay.
I have a son who's a microsurgeon in Omaha, Nebraska, and I like to get out and visit him as well. So, so those are those things. I ran for city council 8 years ago.
Wow, has it been 8 years already?
It's been 8 years already.
Oh, my goodness.
This will be my 5th term.
Yep.
And I did that after I retired
Yes.
from my real job.
Yes.
And I don't know how these guys that have jobs
I know, right?
do it, because it takes a lot of time. Maybe it's because the committees I'm on are more demanding.
Yep.
But it certainly does take a lot of time. So.
And Ralph, you're the Ward 2 city councilor. So
Correct.
I posed this question to both Councilor Matthews-Kane as well as Councilor Oniski. What are some of the pressing issues for your ward, your particular Ward 2?
I think continuing the services that the constituents in Ward 2 are used to having. Also,
And talk about where Ward 2 is for those who need a visual picture.
Ward 2 is part of downtown. It's the whole Pleasant South Maple Street area, the up by Mill. It goes across the river into Dartmouth and Princeton. It's pretty much a downtown
Yep.
area. We have 3 out of the 4 public housing projects.
Okay. Yep.
In Ward 2. We have
Okay.
the senior center in Ward
Yep.
2. So, and Ward 2 is one of the older sections
Yeah.
of,
Okay.
of town.
So that gives
it-
people kind of a reference point.
Right. So it's got some unique issues similar to Ward 3.
Yeah.
Our sewers are 110 years old. Our water lines are 100 years old. So I've been trying to work with the city engineering department. Instead of building new things, we need to maintain the old things, and we need to start a program of replacing those. It's only a matter of time till they go. So I think infrastructure is one of the big issues. Senior services is another big issue. We have so many seniors in the ward.
Yeah.
Trees have been an issue lately.
So we've heard from Councilor Matthews-Kane.
Yeah, well, she's only talked about the planting of them. I'm talking about the taking down of the
yes.
old ones.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
And it's great that she has spearheaded this group
Yeah.
in order to get this grant into town. So
Yeah, so to plant more trees. All right, so you are also, and we talked with Councilor Oniski last segment about his role as chair of the Legislative and Ordinance Committee, which is a big undertaking. You are chair of the Finance Committee, and I would say that rivals L&O. So talk to our viewers and our listeners, Ralph, about what exactly does the Finance Committee do, and then how is your role as chair, kind of address that a little bit.
Well, as chair of the Finance Committee, it's my job to set up all the agendas for all the finance subcommittees.
Okay.
And we meet every We meet twice a month
Okay.
for each council meeting. The mayor will send us a list of expenditures that he would like to do, and it's up to the council to approve those.
Okay.
So that all that work is done in committee. I have a fantastic committee. I have Councilor Matthews Kane and Councilor Sullivan, and we make up, I think, a very wide and diversified experiential background to go towards that. Probably the biggest thing we do is the annual budget. The mayor will submit a budget to the city council. It will then go to finance. Finance will set up a series of meetings where we'll invite department heads in to answer any questions about their budget. And then we need to either pass it the way it is or make some reductions. So far, we've been able to pretty much keep the services in the city at a constant level, which is my goal to do that. And we've had a couple good years in spite of COVID. We have more money in the bank now than we've ever had. We have $11 million in stabilization. We also have taxes. The rate, we didn't increase 2.5% like we could every year. The increase in the tax bill was from the valuations. As everybody knows, real estate's gone crazy.
Oh my goodness,
Your
that
house
is
is
for
worth
sure.
so much more now than it was last year.
Yeah.
And that results in a higher tax bill. But if you're using your home as an investment, you want that. You want your house to increase in value, not decrease.
Right.
You know, it's a two-edged
Exactly.
sword.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly.
House is worth more, you got to pay more taxes.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
But, so basically, that's what finance does. There's another committee, long-range finance, that should be looking at the big picture, where we're going to be in 10 years.
Okay.
So we're more the day-to-day operation.
Right.
We take care of the stuff that needs to get done to keep the city running.
So now, like Ralph, I see a lot on the city council agenda, or like the mayor will say, we want to move money from this, from this department or over here to pay for that. Does all of that go to the finance subcommittee?
It does.
Okay,
It
so you've
does.
got to look at all of those.
We
To
look
me,
at every-
it just seems like 10,000 little things
is.
of we're moving. In some cases, you're moving big chunks of money. In some cases, it's like, oh, we want to move, $1,500 from here to here. And you're thinking, $1,500? I mean,
Or $10.21
Yeah.
for a prior year bill.
yeah, right. Exactly.
Those are the big ones. According to our charter, the mayor can't spend any money unless the council approves it.
Yeah.
So if he wants to transfer anything within the budget, that has to come before the committee. So you're right. There's a lot of little housekeeping issues that keep us very busy.
Well, and some of the things that, and I can tell you as a department head, because we had an example of this that happened. We had a food vendor that we used that forgot to submit an invoice from last year. And, my principal clerk was going crazy going, it was like, $40 or whatever, whatever it was. And so of course she's frantically emailing Tammy saying, how do I do this? And Tammy said, well, if the purchase order is closed from last year, then it's got to go to council. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So it's going to go to council, then it's go to the finance committee and then back to council. And,
Yeah, on the last city council agenda, there was 12 items for finance and 10 of them were prior year bills.
Yeah. And that is, sometimes, Ralph, that in defense of the departments, that is through no fault of ours. You try to stay on top of this. And I know at the end of the year, we are diligent because I have a principal clerk who's diligent about this, reaching out to everybody. It's like, if you have any bills, get them to me in early June because, once June 30th comes, I can't pay them.
Right.
But, every once in a while.
Well, we do pay our bills in
Yes, we
months.
do.
So,
Okay, so
yeah.
that's finance committee.
Yeah, that's finance.
What do you think have been, well, you know what, let me throw this one out to you. I usually save this for the end, but what do you think some of the challenges will be for this next term? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Where to start,
Where to
right?
start?
Well, we could,
Well, I think right now, the biggest thing we have on our table is the data center.
Yep, Bill had mentioned that as well.
The data center
That's
is an opportunity for a developer to come in and work with 160 acres of very difficult to develop property. It's environmentally sensitive. We have eastern box turtles up there. And they have come in with a plan to do that. In return, they're looking for a 40-year deal. And there's some pluses to it and there's some minuses to it. So I think as a council, we have to decide, is this a project we'd like to see go forward, or is this a project that we don't feel is right for Westfield? So I think that's going to be the biggest one.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, Monday night we have a finance committee meeting of the whole to discuss the whole process. We're on a 45-day clock.
Yeah, I was going to say there's got to be a time frame. This is private industry. They're not going to let you ponder this for the next 6 years.
No, we can't debate this and kick the can down the road like we do a lot of other things. But so we're going to have to take a good look at it. Councilor Flaherty has been taking it apart. Mm-hmm. He's been dissecting it very well. There's going to be some good questions asked, some good discussion, and hopefully we can come to a resolution within the near future on that. So.
Okay, so that's one big project.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw out another one because you were on the front page of the Westfield News this morning about the police station. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that will also be kind of a hot topic.
Well, we have two capital projects coming down the road. The first is the elementary school that's been long coming.
Yeah. Oh my goodness,
it is
long
needed.
Coming.
Yeah, it is. It's been needed. It services the kids in wards 2 and 3.
Yep.
Our inner city kids. They deserve a school as nice as the kids in the suburbs, the surrounding areas of Westfield. Paper Mill and Munger Hill and all those, Highland. So that's going to be a major project with the cost of construction. Materials.
Yeah, it's
has
off the charts.
Ballooned.
Yeah.
That project, and it has gone from what we thought was a very manageable number that would allow us to do a lot of other things in the city to a number that's going to eat up a lot of our bonding capacity.
Yeah.
So that's one project to go along with the data center. But the other one is the police station. Now, the police station, in my opinion, 20 years ago should have been torn down. Mm-hmm. My wife's put all 33 years of her career in that building, and it was not healthy. At one point, they had 7 dehumidifiers running downstairs to handle the water, and the mold, it's been just bad. So I think that there's not much of a debate about the need for a new police station. Mm-hmm. And I think the council acted very wisely the other night when Councilor Adams asked me to do immediate consideration for the feasibility study to get that started, let's get moving on it. It's time to do it.
And Councilor Figge, and I think there was a question in the article today about why, like, what happened all of a sudden, because there was an incident that kind of brought this to the forefront.
Yeah, the State Department of Health came in and did a air quality study just like they did over at the courthouse in Springfield, and I think the courthouse in Springfield kind of jump-started the idea for it to work. Yep. And like I said on the floor, this is long overdue.
Yeah.
And at the end, after the council did do the immediate consideration for the authorization of $85,000, I did thank the council on behalf of all past and present police officers.
I saw that, and they put that in the article, which I thought was really good. And the other thing too that our viewers and listeners might be interested in. I mean, I know pre-COVID, just before COVID, I had been in conversation with Chief Valier because, of course, he had a lot of questions about the new senior center, which now is almost 6 years old. We'll celebrate our 6th anniversary this month, which in a couple of weeks, which is amazing. But we had a lot of questions about that whole process and so forth because we were looking at a new police station. I know I had talked to Councilor Adams about it.
Yep.
And there was a lot of talk about putting together a building committee. Chief Valier had asked, would that be something that you could, help with, just having been another department head who built a new building. So that was all in discussion, and then COVID hit, and then everything went out the window. But it wasn't like this is the first that we're talking about this.
No, this has been talked about
for a long time.
Before I got on the council 8 years ago.
Yeah.
The need for a new police station has been discussed. We've sunk millions of dollars into that building.
Yeah.
We could have built a new one for all the repairs we've had. I mean, the garage doors or floors were falling down into the classroom.
Yep.
They can't park a cruiser in there anymore. I mean, just the ventilation systems have never been right. It's had an issue with air quality forever. So a friend of mine who retired 12 years ago used to have sinus infections all the time. Since he's retired, he hasn't had one. So I
So-
think things like that show that the need has been there, but it just hasn't been addressed.
And just to clarify, Ralph, so the money that you're asking for is for a feasibility study. And what is the goal of the feasibility study? What do you hope to get out of that?
We hope to find a location.
Yeah.
Number one is the location. And then we have to do whatever. If we find a location, then we have to do testing of that site to see what's underground.
Yep.
And that's all included in this. So,
And just again, so our viewers and listeners know, that's exactly what we had to do for the new senior center. We didn't just decide, okay, let's build it here.
No.
Oh my gosh, we looked at 12 different sites, and over the span of several years, because there was a study done, then that kind of got shelved for a while. Then I became director. Then Mayor Knappich said, all right, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like back to the drawing board. But there were a number of sites. They looked at renovating buildings. They looked at purchasing. There were a lot of things to consider. So that's why you have a feasibility study. And we did the same thing.
You did the same thing.
Yep.
We did the same thing for the new school.
Yep.
Every project has to start
Exactly.
that way.
Yep.
Because until you find the location, is it appropriate? Where is it located? Is it in a residential neighborhood?
Right.
What are the pros and cons? And there are some things when you design a police station that need to be taken into consideration when you don't build something else.
Yeah.
You want to make sure they're not close to any industry that if they have a catastrophic event, that'll shut down your police
Yeah,
station.
right. You can't
don't
close
want
it.
buildings that are higher than your police station in case of snipers. I mean, these are the things that nobody thinks about,
Right.
and that's why you need a specific type of company to come in and do this feasibility study.
Yep, absolutely.
And there is a couple around. Chief Valier did take a few people down to Florida
Yeah.
to check out
Yep.
a possibility before COVID.
Yep.
And so, I mean, this was moving
Yep.
even before COVID, and then it just the brakes
Yep.
just went on. So.
Yep, exactly. All right,
So-
so Ralph, what do you think? Can talk a little bit about what you consider to be some of the successes over the last couple of years since the council, since you've been on the council this last term.
Oh, this last term? Well, I was
Yes.
going to go back to 6 years ago with the senior center.
Well, you can do that. Go ahead.
I think that we have a state-of-the-art, futuristic senior center that it just serves the needs of our community so well. And I can't say enough about the staff. I think that's great. I think the biggest thing Westfield has is we have some quality people in key positions that keep this city moving. No
Yeah.
matter what the leadership is, the city will continue to move forward. And I can't say enough thank yous to our city employees. And so that's important. I think the last year, the two balanced budgets that we've been able to pass, I think that's been good. Even though there's been no tax relief, it hasn't been the increases that it could be. That's something big. When Bill became chair of LNO, I used to be the chair of LNO. And
Right,
I
that's
had a
right.
couple of packages of things that I wanted to do in LNO that kind of have taken a back seat that hopefully we can revive. I really want to get an apartment registry in town. I want a registration system so every rental property, we know who to contact on a
Yeah.
24-hour basis.
Yep.
We also want to know who's supposed to be living in these
Yeah.
places. Because you got a lot of couch surfing going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Absolutely.
And
I feel like that's
so
one of the ones that I feel like that's doable. You know what I mean? I don't feel like
It's-
that's
It's very doable, and I wanted to tie it in with the building department to conduct our inspections of these rental properties, which means we need to get another body
Yeah.
in the building department.
Yeah.
We had budgeted that for this year. The problem is we're not finding anybody
it's the
willing
staffing,
to work.
right? It's the staffing issues. Yeah, I know.
Is an issue.
I know.
I also think we got to re-establish the credibility of the political system. I think that Facebook has done such a number on allowing people to be so negative without getting the facts
Yeah.
that I think you can see the evidence of it in this election.
Yeah.
You only have one ward that's
Yeah.
contested.
Yeah.
Your at-large people are not contested. Nobody is
Yeah.
getting into it. Greenfield, I don't know if you saw in the paper this morning, has 7 open seats on the council with only 5 candidates.
Wow.
So I think people
Yeah.
are really shying away.
Yeah.
They just don't want to put up with that, and
Yeah.
nobody should have to.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of just reestablishing that we are here for the people that elect us to do what they want us to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Ralph, we have just a couple minutes left, but you are, we talked with Bill because he is liaison to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
You are liaison to both the Council on Aging as well as the Westfield Schools. Talk about your roles in those two functions.
Well, I try to, as the liaison, I'm the person that the other counselors are supposed to go through if they have a question or an issue with that department. So for the Council on Aging, I attend the monthly meetings as best as I can, and just to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. I also think that as a liaison, it's my job when that budget comes in for that department to advocate for that budget, because I will have met with the director or the superintendent, and I know the budget, and I know that stuff. So as far as with the school department, that's almost a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
School department's half the budget, it's half the city employees, it's big. And to try to stay on top of everything, especially now with COVID going on, vaccination requiring masks, it's just been something else. So those, I attend the school committee meetings, which takes up a lot of time.
I was going to say, your life of meetings, it just must be like one after another.
Yeah, it seems like every other week it's 4 nights a week.
Yeah,
so.
it has to be. All right, our time is up, my friend.
Yeah.
Counselor Figge, Ward 2.
Correct.
And, we, as you said, Ralph, I mean, we only have one contested election within the city council. Of course, we have a mayoral election that is contested. But, we're just urging people to come out and vote on November 2nd.
Yep.
They're also looking for poll workers, by the way. So if anybody's interested in that, you can contact the city clerk's office. I have a flyer that we'll be handing out at the senior center because, again, looking for poll workers, and you do get paid for that. It's
you do.
one
And
day, and you get
don't
a,
have
you
to
get a
work.
stipend.
You don't have to work the full 12 hours.
No.
You can break it down and work
You work
many
one
hours.
shift or another.
Yep.
So either the early shift or the later
late
shift.
So that's all good. And the last thing I'd like to say is anybody in Ward 2 that needs a tree, reach out to me because we have free trees in Ward 2, and we got to catch up to Ward 3.
I'm trying to get a tree. I'm trying to get Scott Hathaway to come out. I got a tree that is right near the exit now. That is huge, and we think it's. I've had a lot of seniors even say to me, "Tina, that tree is dead, and if that thing goes down, it's going down on the new senior center." So I'm trying to get Scott out there to just take a look. See.
Well, if you need any help with that, give me a call. I'll give Scott a call.
Thank you, Councilor Figge.
That's what ward councilors do.
There it is. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, and I apologize for being late once again.
No problem. We got it all in there, Ralph. You and I can
did.
talk fast.
You
all
bet.
right.
You bet.
In honor of the birthday of Paul Simon, we're going to listen to Hey School Girl by Simon and Garfunkel. This was their first hit at the age of 15. We'll be back.
Ooh, Papa Lucha, you're mine. Say, ooh, Papa Lucha, you're mine. Hey, schoolgirl in the second row. The teacher's looking over, so I gotta whisper way down low. You say, ooh, Papa Lucha, let's meet at the school after 3. She said, hey, babe, but there's one thing more. My school is over at 4:30. Maybe when we're older than a weekend day. Ooh, let's wait. Hey, schoolgirl in the second row. The teacher's looking over, so I gotta whisper way down low. She said, woo, Papa Lucha, let's meet after school at 3. She said, hey, babe, I got a lot to do. It takes me hours when my homework's through. Someday we'll go steady, so don't you fret. Ooh, not yet. Hey, schoolgirl in the second row. The teacher's looking over, so I gotta whisper way down low. You say, ooh, Papa Lucha, let's meet after school at 3. Then she turned around at me with that gleam in her eye. She said, I'm sorry if I passed you by. I'm gonna skip my home, I'm gonna cut my class. Bug out of here real fast. say to hear the words that I want you to know. Well, it's a whoop-up-a-loop-a-bop, you're mine, I knew it all the time. Whoop-up-a-loop-a-bop, you're mine, whoop-up-a-loop-a-bop, you're mine, whoop-up-a-loop-a-bop.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:33. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles, and my guest this last 25 minutes, is Mary Beth Berrien. She's a candidate for City Councilor Ward 1. So welcome, Mary Beth. We're excited to have a candidate who's running against someone because we, Ken Stomsky and I have been interviewing, a variety of candidates, but most of them are running unopposed. And Councilor Figge just talked a little bit about why he thinks that's happening. So I'm really excited to have a candidate that's running against someone else. So this is a real contest, folks. And I'm also excited that you're here because we don't know you. So this is not necessarily a familiar face. You are to some folks for various reasons, but I'm sure not to a lot of our viewers. So you're running for Ward 1 City Councilor. So, I actually threw this question out, Mary Beth, to all of the people, even the councilors who have been on the council for a while. We've had people move into Westfield who don't know any of you people.
Right.
And so this is the one question that everyone got asked. So introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your educational background and your professional background, just so that we kind of know who you are.
Okay, so I am Mary Beth Berrien, and I have lived in Westfield since April 26, 2002. That's when we closed on our house.
Okay.
I, for whatever reason, dates stick in my head. And I originally started off my adult career as a person in the medical field. I was an x-ray tech.
Okay.
And then the job started to dry up, and it really wasn't conducive to try to find per diem, and not, I had young children. I have three children. Okay. And I was like, well, I got into sales. And then in 2008, when the whole economy took a big nosedive and people weren't buying ads or anything like that, I said, well, I have my bachelor's degree in health science management. I'll go substitute and see. And I absolutely fell in love with it. My first job was at MCDI Safe High School in Springfield. Oh my gosh. The kids that were at that school really made me realize why I wanted to be a teacher. They just needed me. They needed somebody that cared about them. And actually, one of my students is still friends with me on Facebook, and he just turned 30.
Okay.
So I'm a little old here, I feel, and I was like, hey, happy birthday. And he's like, oh my God, it's all because of you, Miss B. And those are the things that make you go, So after I started subbing, I said, well, I guess I should probably get licensed because that's what I had to do. So I went to AIC and I got my master's in special ed. I am a licensed biology, engineering, special ed teacher. And I worked in the city of Westfield for 6 years, from 2012 to 2018, here at this school.
Oh, okay, at Westfield Technical Academy.
Yep, I taught engineering, physics, and forensics. And then I left in 2018 and went to Holyoke for a year, but they're in receivership, so the funding and everything is kind of funky. And they're like, hey, we can't afford you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I landed at Greenfield Commonwealth Virtual School, and I have been a virtual teacher for 3 years.
So Mary Beth, was the school that the virtual school that you're in now, this was pre-COVID virtual?
Yeah, so nothing changed for us. Our kids stayed in school the whole year. And
that makes sense to me now, because when you were saying before we went on air that you were teaching virtually, I thought to myself, wow, I thought just about everybody was back to in-person. But you were part of that.
Right. We teach from Berkshire County all the way to Provincetown.
Yep.
And we have students all across the Commonwealth. And in the interim during all of this, I ended up going and getting my Certificate of Advanced Graduate Studies in School Leadership. So
perfect. So tell us a little bit. I'm just curious as to what some of the challenges are for you now, because you've taught both in person here and elsewhere, and then now you've been teaching virtually for the last few years. What are some of the differences and the challenges? Do you find it harder to connect with students virtually than in person, or what would you say?
No,
not
I think
necessarily.
I think like some of the socialization that the students might not get in a virtual school versus a brick and mortar school are not as big as you would think, because pre-COVID we had get-togethers. So every month there was a student get-together where we would have, like the beginning of the year, we have an opening picnic. In September, we have a hike. In October, they go to a play. In December, they did something. January, we went to the Museum of Science. So you actually get to see the kids and they get to interact with each other. But a lot of the students that we have are more comfortable being like at home.
Yeah.
We do deal with some students that have issues, whether it be medical, they can't go to school for whatever reason, or mental health issues, anxiety. And then we also have students that are like actors that are, going on different calls that they can't attend a regular brick and mortar school because it doesn't work for them for timing. And then we also have students that are like athletic Olympic hopefuls. We have some kids that play on the New England Revolution on the AAA team. So, we had a graduate, I think it was last year or the year before, who is a figure skater. So, the students are not all... They're all different. They're just all different.
They're kind of non-traditional in whatever their unique way is, it sounds like.
Exactly. And I think the cool thing is, so this past Monday, I teach Earth and Space Science now. So we got into gems and minerals, which is like my jam, So we were talking about geology and things like that. And I'm like, well, on Monday, I'm going to be going for a hike at Stanley Park with my dog and my husband. If anybody wants to join. It wasn't like a field trip, but, your parents have to come with you. And be there. And we're just going to walk around in the back and check out some of the geology and like maybe the dry creek beds or, talk about the different things. And I had 2 students and their parents show up and we walked around. So it's not that we don't have the interaction with students. One student came from Charlton, one came from Springfield.
Wow.
So,
So how many but you have a set number in your classes virtually, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So some of my chemistry classes, I have like 13 to 15. Earth and Space Science, I have like 39. 39. Forensics, I have 29. So it's Chem Honors is a little bit smaller of a class, but those are the kids that are like diving deeper into critical scientific thinking. So.
It sounds like a really interesting, and I actually know some people who have students who have gone through that program, and I agree with you that these are students with very different circumstances as to why this works for them and the going into the school thing didn't. And as you said, you're kind of all over the map with whether it's a physical problem, mental health issue, sports, career, whatever.
Oh, we have a musician that was playing with an orchestra too.
Yeah.
So,
you can definitely see that. So that's kind of a unique, and it sounds like you're more of the sort of science-y, kind of hard sciencing kind of person in terms of what you've been teaching.
Right.
So, so let's talk about now that we know that background. And you obviously live in Ward 1.
I do.
So let's talk about have you ever served in public office before?
I was an elected official of the Board of Trustees at STIC, so kind of in that sense, yes.
Of course.
But never have I officially run outside of a college campus for a political office.
Okay, so let's talk about why that decision and why now.
So I don't know how many people are aware, but there is the progressive pride flag that gets flown in the city of Westfield. For the past few years, it's been put up in front of City Hall and on the green this past year in downtown Westfield. And it was brought to my attention that somebody was trying to stop it from being flown at all. So I was like, that's crazy. Why are we going to do this? I mean, like, I've had students come out to me because they can't come out to somebody else. So we need to let them know that their community supports them. And we need to protect these kids because there's a lot of mental health issues when you're gay and unaccepted, or when you're trans and unaccepted, or when you're non-binary and unaccepted. And when people don't affirm your gender and don't affirm who you are as a person. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to run for office because this stuff's got to stop. This has got to stop. And I just kind of said it off the cuff. And a couple people were like, hey, so I'm part of this committee. Can you come over here? And then they were like, hey, this is Mary Beth Berrien, and she's running for Ward 1. And I went, oh, I guess it's official now, It was something that I had said. And I was like, either I'm going to run or I'm going to be a thorn in the side. So I might as well do both. So then that way I can, win, lose, or draw, I'm still going to be an advocate for human rights in the city and to make sure that nobody is considered other. And that's...
So Mary Beth, let me take that one step further and say, what was the impetus for Ward 1 versus an at-large city council seat?
So I live in Ward 1, and we have like one of the only clean aquifers, and the environmental impact of, though the area around the aquifer is zoned industrial, that doesn't mean that we're going to put a chlorine plant there or a nuclear waste reclaiming facility. Industrial doesn't necessarily have to mean environmentally impactful. It can be eco-friendly. And so making sure that, the Yellowstone House Farm can still stay organic and not have to worry about, is their water tainted or polluted? And, those kind of things are important to me. I have 2 grandchildren that come and see me. My granddaughter I don't get to see often. But I have 2 young grandchildren, 11 and just born, 2 months on the 25th.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, just to be able to have like the open spaces and the Arm Brook area and places where the kids can go out and experience the nature that we have, at least the small amount that we have in Westfield, and not be afraid of stepping in a puddle and having your foot fizzle off. Or, I mean, that's a joke, but I know. But I mean, I don't want it to become a thing where I live up on the hill, up by the high school, and even further, I don't need it to become air polluted, congested, and water polluted. It's just not conducive to why people want to move to Westfield in the first place. They're trying to get rid of that out of their backyard. So
so that was sort of the environmental piece that was why you opted for Ward 1. Well,
right.
You live there,
right?
So.
Well, I live there, right? That's what it is. When I thought about should I run at large or should I run Ward 1, I was like, you know what? I think we have enough people that are ward representatives that are at large in the long run. So we really need somebody to be a voice for Ward 1, and we really need somebody that's going to stand up for Ward 1 and the issues that Ward 1 could face.
Okay. And, I had Councilor Matthews Kane on the show last week, and this was her first term, this past term. And we talked a little bit about the learning curve that new city councilors go through, because there's a lot of procedural stuff. I mean, and department heads go through the same thing. It's like, well, you can't do that. This has to go to council, and this has to go to committee, and this has to go to your board. And it's like, So I guess one of my questions is, how familiar are you with all the procedural, the council procedural?
So Marianne Babinski, who was a counselor for Ward 1,
she was.
When she found out I was running, she was like, hey, what can I do to help? So,
nice.
I've been reaching out to people that are like, guiding me on things like, oh, you can't just do this. You have to do it this way. Finding out how when for instance, the data center that they want to put up there, or even Old Dominion, when they initially did their site plan, now they came back and said, hey, we want to do this. And it originally in the site plan, they weren't going to do it. And now they want to do this, but they want to put thousands of gallons of diesel fuel almost on the aquifer and in a storage thing. It doesn't make sense. That's...
So procedurally, to go back to that question, so you're so Mary Ann's been former
Councilor
Ward
Mary
1
Ann,
former Councilor Ward 1 Mary Ann Babinski's been kind of guiding you, which is super helpful.
Almost like a mentor,
because there a lot of times I think candidates run, and I've seen this with a number of candidates over the year, and they're incredibly enthusiastic and very bright, and they have great ideas, and and I've dealt with that as a department head. I'll go into I can remember going into a financial subcommittee, and I'm going, okay, well, we need to do this, and I've got a counselor saying to me, that's ridiculous, that's way too much money, and blah blah blah. In private industry you could do it. Right, but we're not private industry, and because you're a municipality, there are certain rules and guidelines.
You have to follow bids and all this other stuff.
Exactly, you have to do all of this stuff. And does it cost more money? Yes, it does.
Right.
Unfortunately, that is the system that it's not just our municipalities.
Right, it's everyone.
That's the other thing, and I'm always trying to say, it's not just Westfield, folks. It's all of the cities and towns. We're all dealing with the same thing. So great to know that you've got somebody who's mentoring you and sort of guiding you through that process, because I think that's really important. Discuss what you think, Mary Beth, are some of the successes of the council that we have on now. So over the last couple of years, and I know sometimes with candidate they're running because they see a variety of problems, and we'll get to that.
Right.
But let's talk about are there successes that you can see?
I think some of the successes that we have are that we've really worked on getting some of the infrastructure issues dealt with and worked with. Mm-hmm. A lot of the beautification of Westfield, though it does go through city council, and it's usually from private citizens trying to apply for, CPAC grants. CPA grants and stuff like that. The proactiveness that I've seen from most of the council to make Westfield a place where people do want to be here has been probably one of the most positives. I do know that there are issues that the councilors that want to do things in the better way and make things better get the roadblocks in front of them because of procedure, because of lowest bid, because of whatever, and though they don't actually get what they want done, they're working on steps to get what they want done. So,
exactly.
I do think that for the most part, most of the city councilors that I've interacted with or that I've seen or checked voting records and stuff, they really do want to do better for the city, and they are in the right mode, for lack of a better word, but they just it's a process.
Well, it is, and I like the fact that you brought up sort of that trying to be proactive, because I think as a department head, that's what you try to do. You try to be proactive. You try to look ahead and say, where do we want to be in 2 years? Where do we want to be in 6 months? Where do we want to be in 5 years?
Right.
And sort of how do we get there? Because some of those processes take a long time, and you know that. I think the other thing too is sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's like you've been trying. I can tell you there are projects that I've worked on for years, and I just thought, we're never going to get there. And then suddenly something happens with another department, and it opens it up, and it's like, whoa, we can dovetail and do this together.
Yep.
And suddenly, there we are. So I think it's being open to what else is out there, thinking outside of the box and so forth. But so what do you see as, now that we've talked about some of the positives and that sort of being proactive, but what do you see as a whole, some of the challenges? And I've asked this to all of the candidates that this next coming set of city councilors is going to have to deal with.
Right. Well, I can tell you that some of the challenges that I find and some of the onus of my running are, Westfield infrastructure. We do really need to be planning better and be more proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
We need to understand that, for instance, the police department and the teachers, once they retire, there's money that they are supposed to be getting paid. And, how are they going to do that? How are they going to maintain that? And what can we do now to set that foundation to allow these teachers who have put in 35, 40 years in the district or whatever they put in, and let them have their pension and go on to retire and do their things. Police officers as well. And I think coming into a new city council as a city council member, for me, it would be like trying to see where everybody falls on this and trying to get consensus on, hey, can we do something a little bit more proactive versus being reactive? Like, I know one of the, environmental justice communities right by the Pike, they're dealing with the traffic from the Pike every day, whether it's getting on the Pike or getting off the Pike. And, the trees have been cut down and the, air quality is probably not that good. And they're an environmental justice community, which is law now that they have to be represented and engaged with. So, being that they're in my ward, I would be proactively working with them to find out what are some things that we can do to help alleviate this. Like, I know that they've not recently, but within the past few years, have made it a one-way driving through there, so people don't cut off a Southampton road, cut through to get up in front of the line, to make it safer for the kids that are in the apartment complex. And I think we need to really start looking at the infrastructure that we have, and can we keep maintaining, even though it is industrial, putting new businesses up there that might have a couple hundred people coming in every day. We already are pretty much at the limit in capacity now. So what can we do to try to fix this? And that's, some of the things that I see as challenges, and how can I, as a Ward 1 representative, best represent the wants and needs of the people that live in Ward 1 besides myself. This isn't just about me. This is about the collective unit of Ward 1.
Yeah. And, and again, I've asked some of the other ward councilors or those that are running again, and I should have started with this, but where are the parameters of Ward 1? Like, what's included in, so that people have a visual of kind of what part of the city?
Okay, so if you are leaving the city heading towards the Mass Pike, the bridge to your left, from that green bridge all the way up past the airport on the left.
Okay.
So it's 1A and 1B.
Okay. So that's all Ward 1. Mary Beth, we talked with, I was just talking with Councilors Oniski and Figge about the committees that they're on. Councilor Figge is chair of the Finance Committee, Councilor Oniski, chair of the Legislative and Ordinance Committee. There are a number of subcommittees. Have you thought at all about, and of course, you don't necessarily get to choose exactly where you want to be, but I think I think the council president likes to try to kind of put people where they can, be the most effective. So are there any committees that you sort of see yourself on, or you would envision yourself being on, or would like to be on?
I don't really see any committees that I would, like, I don't know how many there are, and I don't know, like, all of the committees. There's committee, subcommittee. Yeah. So, like, trying to find out which one would be more aligned with what my views are and what I would like to do. I do know that the ordinance committee would be one that I think would be beneficial, at least for Ward 1, because even if, people come into us with, this is what our idea is, well, then at that point inside that committee, then you can work on what is really expected and get a good plan that's going to go forward to the city council, or say, hey, this isn't something we think we should be doing, and what can we do to fix this and make it better? So I think the planning board does a good job of it, but I think that once the planning board then gives the people the things that they need to come to us with it, then that's where that disconnect sometimes happens too. So being aware of the different boards that are out there, let alone just the committees, and being proactive in what they're doing and understanding, like, where do you go to find this information? Not many people know. If you go to the City of Westfield website and go to the city council and then look up the planning board, you can find out pending applications. And how is this going to impact you and where you live, whether it's Ward 1 or Ward 6 or,
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 3 or 4 minutes left, Mary Beth.
Really?
And I know. The time goes well. Councilor Oniski said the same thing. He's like, what? So, again, because you are the one person running who, for the council anyway, that, we don't really know, you've got a few minutes to just, what would you like the public to know? What would you like to say? This is your opportunity.
Well, I just want them to know, when I took out my papers, I only took out my papers for Ward 1. I didn't hedge my bets and go, oh, well, maybe I'll do this too. No, I wanted to represent where I lived, and I wanted the people that are in our area to know that I was there for them. I was not there for me just to have a council seat. That wasn't what this was about. This is really about make sure that we maintain Ward 1 and all of the beautiful open areas that we have. And, just making sure that we're represented with a voice that will speak up and say, hey, no, we're not doing that. We need to talk about this a different way because this is not going to happen here. Let's, work on that. And I think they need somebody that is going to be active in progressing what we want to do in Ward 1. So yeah, we're industrial up there by the airport. Sure, fine. So what can we do up there that's going to help and benefit not only Ward 1, but the rest of the city? Because, obviously the ward doesn't just get to keep the money from the ward, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
Which would be really nice because then everybody would get all the things. But, but taking into account how this will impact Ward 1 and how it will impact the city and what's the benefit. Cost effectiveness, sure, we can get something that's going to bring in millions of dollars, but is it really going to be good for the city? Are we going to end up having areas where people are like, yeah, no, you don't want to live over there? I mean, take, for instance, Monsanto. People don't want to live by Monsanto. So what's happening? You're getting all of these little areas that are popping up that are, environmental justice communities, but now they're being stuck by a facility. So, we don't want to do stuff like that to our town.
So again, I think being proactive, being environmentally sound, it sounds like those are some of your major issues. Okay,
infrastructure,
I don't want to
human
speak
rights.
for you, but
No.
I'm trying to summarize because that's what I'm hearing.
Right. So the environment, human rights, the infrastructure, and education. We need to make sure that the schools are good. That as a teacher, I want to make sure that the teachers have what they need. The school buildings have what they need. Are they doing things in a proactive way for the students? Are they offering different things for students to do? This is a great school. The shops that are here are fantastic. Not every kid has to go to college. Not every kid wants to go to college. And, a career in technical education is fantastic. I have a couple students. One student graduated from culinary. They just bought a house. I have another student that graduated from construction, and they've been living on their own for a few years now. So, the CTE part, they're able to buy houses without having to have crushing student loan debt. So kudos to them.
All good ways to kind of look at things and a nice, fresh perspective. So, Mary Beth, thank you so much. It's Mary Beth Berrien, candidate for City Councilor, Ward 1. Got to get all of that out, which is hard to say. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck. And again, everyone, that wraps up our interviews with the council candidates. Get out and vote on November 2nd,
yes,
right?
Please.
Okay.
Please do.
Have a good week. We'll be back next week.
Go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Guy McLean from the Westfield Athenaeum, and this is Athenaeum Spotlight on Westfield Community Programming, Channel 15 and 89.5 WSKB.